Hey guys, this is Really01, and welcome back to the final part of What If Light Never Killed Innocent People. In the last one, we found out that all the other governments have sent people to investigate Japan trying to find Kira, and that L wanted to seek an audience with the Shinigami King. Now let's see what's gonna happen. So as Misa's pregnant, she's staying more at home and trying not to stress herself out with all this stuff. She still doesn't know that she hasn't got her memories back from the Death Note because Light doesn't want to burden her with the stress of the baby and knowing all that fact. So he's keeping that hidden from her a lot. So what's next is that the investigation teams from all the other governments are colliding with L's team with Nier and Mellow and stuff, but not like directly, more like they're getting in their way or they're trying to figure out what they're investigating. And they're starting to find out that they're investigating Light Yagami, which is going to be a problem on most fronts. Since they know they're investigating Light because, they're following him and all that other stuff. So the other teams are going to be like, maybe this is a person of interest, maybe this person is Kira or is somehow connected to Kira. We have to make her move. So what happens one day is that Light, he gets kidnapped by one of the other governments. I'm just going to say a random one. I'm not going to name one because it's just going to be too much of a hassle. So anyways, Light gets captured by one of these governments and they're trying to torture him for information. And it's like, let's just say it's a couple of days before he's still not going to tell him anything because he's like, he's strong willed. He's not going to do shit. He's survived 13 days of, oh, well, he never did the 13 days. But you get me, like in canon, he survived up to like at least 13 days of, being inside a jail cell, no food, no water, or other stuff. I believe that's what happened. But, anyways, back to the point. He's being tortured, and meanwhile, the whole time, L and his team try to find him because, even though they think he's a suspect, him being like captured by someone else is probably not a good thing. So then Light's dad is like, "Where the hell is my son?" It's been 2 days, and like L like tells him, "Oh, he's been captured by the other government agencies trying to find Kira," and then we have to rescue him, we have to find him, and being a father how he is, and so they devise a plan of like to break into wherever Light's being held and tortured, and that's what they're gonna do. So let's just say it's the one abandoned building somewhere outside the outskirts of Japan, in like the countryside. So that's where they have him. So while the government's been trying to torture him, Light hasn't told Jack shit, so he's pretty messed up. Also, while he's been doing this, Ryuk, well, not Ryuk, Rem was still putting down names of people in the Death Note, so it wouldn't look suspicious that Light was like out of action, and Kira's also out of action. So that saved his ass. So the Light and like the whole team of Matsuda and everyone, they go after to rescue Light. It goes into a big giant ass firefight because you get me. The government doesn't want to give Light back because they think he'll tell them where Kira is, and they're getting really desperate about this point. They exchange fire. Everyone's like all suited up with their tactical gear and like trying to rescue Light. And this creates a national incident because agents being killed on foreign soil. That's kind of like, I don't know, declaring war at some point. Anyways, after they kills the most of the agents, they try to capture some, but some managed to get away. So their whole operation has been exposed. They take Light back to the main facility that they have, that giant ass building, and they give him medical attention. They try to debrief him, asking what did they do to him, why did they do to him, and like he explained that they thought he somehow knew Kira or that he was Kira, based on the fact that the investigation team was following him of all people. And like L, he feels kind of guilty about it because yeah, it was his investigation that put Light in jeopardy to a point because he was following him. He suspects him of being Kira, and that painted a target on his back unintentionally. But you get me. As Light is recovering, he's thinking about what he should do, what should be his next move. Because if he was a target, it suddenly dawned on him, oh crap, what about Misa? So he asked the investigation team to make sure that Misa's safe, and yeah, she's safe. They've been having her under surveillance, and they had like guards posted at her house or at their house. They're not gonna be stupid enough to like let it happen again. And Light's relieved. At least they thought of that. Oh, but yeah, that stressed him out, especially with the baby coming on. It was gonna. He's a doting father now. Anyways, back to the point. So during this time of his recovery, he thinks he should meet with the Shinigami King. And yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of a trip, let's just say the least. So the first thing you gotta do is separate his soul from his body. That is pretty not simple to do, but this is Death Note, so Shinigamis and spirits and all that other stuff. Yeah, that goes with the territory. So Light, well, he's in isolation and let's just say let's skip the part where he recovers fully and goes back home. He's not gonna leave the house for a while since he's being wanted by other government agencies and shit's about to hit the fan. The other government agency has called that their agents were killed, and that this is going to turn into an international incident. It's on the news that their agents were killed in Japan by Japan's government because they're trying to protect Kira or whatever. And that the UN is trying to paint that, or the other governments are trying to paint that Japan has been helping Kira, and they're not actually doing an investigation. They're just keeping his power so they could use it for their own political gain. So anyways, while that's going on and things are getting worse all over the globe with tensions high between all governments, Light thinks it's time to initiate his plan. So first he's going to need to ask Ryuk to take him, and yeah. So what he does is he goes to sleep in his room, and he puts him. Ryuk separates the soul from the body. I'm just saying that's a thing they could do. I'm not gonna say that he has to take drugs and put himself in a coma state, so he's in that state of being alive and dead, because that'd be way too complicated and they can't really control it. So yeah, so Ryuk separates Light's soul from his body, and they travel to the Shinigami realm. And all the while that Light's carrying a mysterious, bag with him. No one knows what's inside, but it'll be important later. So he travels to the Shinigami realm with Ryuk, and he sees how they see everything from the top of the world, like gods, and wow, this is pretty amazing. Is this how you always see Ryuk? Ryuk's yeah, it's always like that, but it's so boring. How he is, that he's just bored about life, that he doesn't understand it. All he wants is a fucking apple, and that's it. So they make their entrance, or they're making their way to the Shinigami King. Like I said, the whole 24-hour thing does take effect, but we'll just play around with it. So time flows differently in this realm compared to the other. So anyways, as they're making their way to the Shinigami King, a lot of the other Shinigamis are taking notice that there's a human soul here, because that's kind of strange. They haven't seen one in a while, or it's unheard of that anyone or any human has ever came in contact with everyone. So yeah, that's something. Anyways, as Light goes to the Shinigami King and talks to him front to front. He asks what the purpose of the Death Notes were. Like, why were they created? Why were they sent to Earth? Or why were they allowed to be used by humans? And the Shinigami King, like, doesn't really, like, want to answer that question because it's, like, ancient and long history and all that bullshit. But Light came prepared just in case, and inside the bag he picks out an apple and he throws it to the Shinigami King, who catches it and is surprised that there's apples here. They said that they could come to the Shinigami realm. He didn't say they couldn't bring anything with them. So Light took advantage of the fact that a lot of the Shinigamis like sweet things like apples and stuff. So he brought a whole bag full. So he was fucking prepared. Anyways, so with that bribed, the Shinigami King actually does tell Light the whole history about it. That it was a way for the Shinigamis to visit the Earth realm and choose this respective of a human being. Most didn't really care. Most of them just did it for fun. But it was also to make sure they could keep in touch, and also when their numbers were going down, that there would be new Shinigami to replace them after the fact. So he's explaining that all the people who use the Death Note, when they die, they become Shinigami. So that's the reason they're able to go to Earth, why they're able to be used by humans, and why all those rules are intact, like they can't go to heaven or hell or all that other stuff. So that's the reason behind why the Shinigami drop notebooks to the human realm. The next thing that Light asked him is that if he could have all the Reapers or all the Shinigami help him with something, and that he'll give him the whole bag of apples if he does it. The Shinigami King is reluctant to do so because technically he is a king. He should not be obeying a mortal or a mortal soul, whatever. But he listens to the proposition, and Light's plan is very critical. So what he's going to do is he's going to do a massive killing. Like, this is going to be a global scale. So you're going to have all the Shinigamis help him to kill all the criminals around the world in one fell swoop. And this is going to be way, 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 way noticeable. Because everyone around the world, all the criminals that he has, had a database of, he's been keeping track of, he's going to kill them all around the world at one time. And the other Shinigamis are going to help, so this is going to not take as long as you would think. So he gives the apples to the Shinigami King and says that once he enacts the plan, he'll have Ryuk, tell him to do it, and everyone agrees. So okay. So after this, Light has to return back to his body because the 24 hours are almost up. So he's been in the real world, he's almost been out for a day, and for here he's been only a few hours. So time flows differently, I like to say. So anyways, he goes back to his body and he's like, wait, was that real or was that a dream? And Ryo confirms, yeah, it was true. You actually went to the Shinigami realm and everything. So Light tries to enact his plan. He's gathering all the information of all the people around the world and making sure he has all of them, no mistakes, no missing identities, no innocent people caught in the crossfire, or political figures that by other government standards they call them traitors because they went against the government, and that's the only crime that they did. So he's going to keep those, well, I think you would call them dissidents or whatever. You get me. There's people who go against the government because the government's corrupt, and then they fucking throw them in a gulag or something. So anyways, yeah. He's getting all that information on other governments, and meanwhile, Misa is, I think, getting into her third trimester. I don't know what it's called when they're about to give birth, but it's not that close. It's a few months off. She's getting to that point, and she's showing and everything, and him and Misa try to relax for a little bit. she's a little stressed out that Light got kidnapped, he would actually tell her that because you get me. If he like says otherwise, contrary to the belief, then she's not gonna trust. You get me. It's worse to lie to her than to tell her the truth in some situations. So, anyways, while this is going down, the other governments have been, debating in the UN whether Japan has been, conspiring with Kira or they've been withholding information. And, they asked for L to, like, over all information he has about the investigation. L, to quell the anger of the other governments, does give out the information that about, that Kira needs a name in the face or that all the other stuff he did figure out on his own. But he tells them that Kira, like Yagami, is not Kira, that he was a suspect, but they investigated, interrogated, and made sure he wasn't Kira, so he can't be Kira. And he's doing this because right next to him is, like, Light's dad, because he's the one, like, being his representative in the UN instead of it being Watari, because Watari would probably be, cute. It's just doing it right now because he wants to, like, prove that his son's innocent, and he's, like, willing to go into enemy territory for that, which is the UN or the Interpol building, whatever it was, the IPO. He's, like, telling them that they investigated and he was innocent, and, like, other governments kind of believe this, want to say no, they're probably faking it, saying that he didn't, and then, like, they have the recording of him being interrogated and them actually putting the truth serum in him, and, like, he answered if he was Kira, and it said no, and, like, all the other stuff. So yeah, that's a lot of evidence that they have that Light is not Kira, so that's cool that they have that. And while that all of this is happening, Light has completed his list, and it's time to purge the world of some criminals that he did. While he did this, he put on a lot. Luckily, he was able to make a video of a live broadcast of Kira, saying that the time is now. I have become more powerful than you can ever imagine, and now the world shall know my existence. And, like, all over the world, all the criminals everywhere are starting to die, like, one after another. It's spreading like a plague, like, from the center of Japan, like, all over. Like, all the criminals start dying, like, in the radius, as that it keeps expanding and expanding and expanding until it reaches the other side of the world. So just, like, imagine, like, a bunch of people just falling down, and, like, they're thinking, oh god, there's people, like, randomly dying on the streets and stuff. It's just so crazy because you think about it, like, criminal investigations, or, like, criminals around the world, they're all dying. They're, like, seeing, like, oh man, this is live, people are dying on the streets, and they're thinking, oh, is Kira killing innocent people? No, those are all criminals, whether they're organized crime, wanted criminals, and, like, people, like, you get me, they're on the blacklist of the governments, that they're criminals but technically they don't exist, and, like, all this other stuff, and, like, wanted people that have been, like, missing for years because they got away with it and, like, changed their identities or went to, like, different ass countries. Yeah, they're all falling down, man. And with that, people believe, oh, Kira's a god. How is he doing this? How is he taking all these people out at once and all that stuff? I'm like, yeah, like, this will be a lot. And Light made this recording the same way he would do, like, his real recording, like, all the proper audio and all the other stuff to, like, change his voice and stuff, so he can't be caught. And he hacked so perfectly to the IP address or wherever he put this message on that it spread around the world. And you get me, people get the message. With this, it comes to the fact that L believes that, yeah, Kira might actually be a god, because how the hell do you kill so many people around the world and in the fashion that he did it? Because if it's one person, that's going to take too much time to do. And that's what L's thinking, that yeah, this is impossible for one person to do. There has to be multiple people with the same power as Kira, because either that or it's literally a god taking it out on other people. But it's kind of weird that, you get me, it happened at this point right after the UN and everything, because you get me, it's all the timing, it was like way too perfect. But either way, there's nothing he could do. He can't prove that it's anyone else that but Kira, and he can't tell what Kira is or who he is, because all their leads like fucked up. Even Nier and Mello are at their freaking wits end. Although Nier is a little bit more accepting of the fact that maybe Kira is doing well, you get me. He's like very evasive, but at least he's not killing innocent people. That one thing he can get behind, but you get me. Mello is like, oh, it doesn't matter as long we had to catch him, so we could prove that we're the best. That you get me, that we're the best investigators, that we could take down the most wanted criminal in the world. But yeah, L, you know, consoles with himself that yeah, he's not gonna be able to catch Kira, so he should just let it go, because this is probably actually is a god, and he is like, just gonna be, he's untouchable. That's pretty much what he's thinking. He can't touch a god. No one can face God. Let's give it out. So after all the criminals around the world, like, drop dead because from the Shinigamis killing them with heart attacks, because that's pretty much what they're gonna do. They're gonna write their names. They're gonna be not gonna be elaborate about it. It's just gonna be straight up heart attacks. Write your name. That's it. So with this, like I said, there's an era of silence right after it happened. All the criminals are dead. The governments don't know how to react. Some governments that relied on, corruption and, you know, mob or, mafia type things to, like, be in power, they're pretty much at the end foot about it. So with this, Light decides, yeah, maybe it's time to, you get me, move out to the countryside, or like, nah, he's like, yeah, you get me, he's gonna step away from the whole as the being Kira, let Rem and Ryuk handle it for a while, and he'll just, live a normal life. We'll skip a few years later after the fact that, Light became retired in his, um, after the fact that he killed all the criminals around the world. So with that, most governments would not try to go after Kira, knowing, or you get me, believing that, yeah, Kira's a god, so they can't really, fuck with him. So the governments try to, like, instill policies where they're not going to be as lenient, or you get me, they're going to be more thorough when they do their justice. And if they find a criminal they can't catch, they'll post this information on the internet or whatever, so it could get Kira's attention. So that's what they're going to do from now on. Let him be the judge, jury, executioner, because, like, sometimes the law doesn't get it done, and Kira is there to pick up the slack, so to speak. During this time, Light, Misa gives birth, so, and it's a boy, so you get me. It's a fun thing. So he has a son. He names him after Ryuk, which is kind of funny if you think about it, because, like, Ryuk's like, what, am I uncle now? Or, like, you get me. Yeah, because Ryuk was technically his best friend during this whole time. Like, he's not going to be able to see him, like, after he dies or whatever, or maybe when he becomes a Shinigami, as he learned from the Shinigami King, that once he dies, that's it, that he's going to become a Shinigami. He's never probably going to be able to watch his kids or his grandkids, like, descendants after the fact. So anyways, without the need for anyone or the Death Note and him to actually be Kira, he just doesn't do it anymore. Occasionally when it becomes serious that Rem and Ryu can't do it, or the Shinigamis don't know what to do, because, well, technically the other Shinigamis, their role was fulfilled, that whole execution of the world. that was done. So they're done. The Shinigami King was impressed with this kid, thinking that maybe when he becomes Shinigami, then maybe he could take over when he's gone, or when when the Shinigami King retires, like permanently. I don't know if that's even a thing, but we'll just say it's a possibility, because I remember in the aftermath of the manga and some of the movies that, well, there's only two of the original Death Note, or three technically, but that was a spin-off. But anyways, that they're looking for a new Shinigami King, so it's a possibility. So Light, Misa, and Ryuk, they grow up happily, ever after. I'm not gonna like say, oh yeah, like I'm gonna like detail it, but yeah, they lived happily. And what Ryuk did is that he followed in his dad's and grandpa's footsteps.
He became a detective just like his grandfather and his dad, because that's what he did.
So he does that. And L retired. He let Nier and Mello take over after the case, because he felt he couldn't do it anymore. So yeah, that happened. At least he's alive, but at least he retired without anyone, like the tragic death that he had in the anime. I know it was sad to like, oh god, he died, but like, you get me. Good or bad, like, he was a good character in the whole time. Okay, anyways. So, what Light does is that he puts both Death Notes in the lockbox that he's gonna give to his son at a certain point in his life. He hasn't told him anything about the Death Notes, or the existence of Shinigami, but he's gonna leave like a recording in it, telling his son what happened, how he was Kira, and like all that other stuff. He's like gonna explain what's gonna happen, and that if anything ever happens to him, or that he ever feels he needs the Death Note, that he'll have people watching over him that will protect him. So pretty much Ram and Ryuk, because he's gonna leave the Death Notes there. So just in case he needs to, the world needs Kira again, because Ram and Ryuk are doing a good job, and they could do it from the Shinigami realm, but sometimes it needs a personal approach, a human approach. So he leaves the Death Notes to his son, just in case, and using the special of the Shinigami realm, where that new Shinigami goes to visit Ryuk and ask him about Light and like what was the whole deal with why he chose him. I'm gonna say that Shinigami was Light. I'm just gonna say it that route. He just doesn't have his memories of being human, and Ryuk was sad when he died, and like he sees him again, but he doesn't recognize him because he's completely different. But he still has the same tie, the same, you get it, and the attitude that he had. And there's also a female with him that he's like holding hands with, a female Shinigami. They're together for like since they were both born around the same time, or like he found her like a little bit along the way when he was created. And I'm gonna end it all here. Thank you for watching. This is my first ever series I completed, and I hope to continue doing this. Next time I'll do what if Deku had Lucius powers from Code Geass. And thank you. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.